Well, for more on this story, we now have Wissam Ahmed, a spokesman for the Al-Haq human rights organisation, joining us live from Ramallah in the West Bank. Many thanks for joining us, Mr. Ahmed. Now, how important was this delivery of humanitarian aid for the people of Gaza?
Any aid to Gaza is desperately needed. As was issued recently in a UN report, the people in Gaza are getting approximately 25% of what they need to be able to live. And the Israeli occupation is continuing to deal with the population of Gaza as a population under siege and allowing them to barely maintain the minimum standard for survival.
Now, Israel has previously said that the situation in Gaza isn't as bad as some reports suggest, saying that legal aid is getting in. So do you think that they could have had any reason to prohibit the flotilla from reaching Gaza?
The Israeli occupation forces continuously espouse this rhetoric in order to be able to detract the international attention from the crisis that is existing in Gaza. And we have field workers on the ground in Gaza that describe a very horrendous situation, and it just continues to deteriorate with every passing day, and every bit of aid is needed. And what must be remembered is these aid groups and the flotilla and the activists that were coming with them should be commended for their activities, because they are stepping into the shoes of the international community, who has the responsibility to step up and break this siege that is holding the entire population in Gaza in prison. And Israel, as an occupying power with regard to the population of Gaza, as well as the entirety of the occupied Palestinian territory, has obligations to meet as an occupying power, and they're failing to do so. The international community is failing to ensure Israel respects those obligations under international law. Therefore, these international activists are coming to fill that desperately needed aid and respect for international law. They're taking the law into their own hands because the international community has failed to do so.
Well, how do you think that this situation in Gaza will develop? Do you think Israel will eventually end the blockade?
Well, Israel will continue to act with impunity and will go further and further until the international community steps up and acts to stop Israel's continuous violations of international law. Israel continues to act with impunity, and every day they seem to surprise us more and more with how far they can go in disrespecting international law. Today, they went out into international waters and attacked these Free Gaza ships and prevented them from being able to reach the population of Gaza. And we are continuously surprised by the actions that Israel takes. But at the same time, we really shouldn't be surprised, because as long as the international community continues to remain silent, Israel will continue to act as it wants to act.
But Israel has said that its soldiers were shot at and attacked with weapons, and that it was and that they were actually merely just protecting themselves. Do you think that there's any truth in that?
I highly doubt that there is any semblance of truth to what the Israeli occupation forces are saying. On the contrary, Israel is trying to raise these issues in order to detract from the fact that they shouldn't have been there in the first place. These ships had not even reached territorial waters. They were in international waters. Israel has no right to be able to attack these ships. And by throwing these accusations, they are trying to detract from the core issue, which is their attack on these ships that were trying to bring desperately needed aid to the population in Gaza.
OK, Mr. Wissam Ahmed from the Al-Haq human rights organisation, many thanks for speaking to us from Ramallah. Many thanks.